Welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. And today's topic, Terence Crawford got his remindment, but utilized also under the people of color entities, etc. There is something about in this brilliant system, which is the most awesome mental manipulation force that has ever existed. And its primariness that it has been doing for centuries is the cultivating of black male pain. And they have been successful with small percentage exceptions in that goal or goals. And around the 1960s was probably the last particular apex of time where there was a few more black males that kind of got tired of this consistently of over indulgence in various parts of society of showcasing black pain and participating in black pain and the lynching even more of black males. The criminality of showcasing the black males. And then the 70s, they were like, wait a minute now, we got to figure out how to get these little Negroes under control, at least a little bit more. So they introduced a little bit more feminism, and then 50 years later, Sister of Chaos members are out of control and stuff like that, following the lead of Anglo-feminism. And then you also got certain types within certain black male Americanism that want to be coons and sellouts and Uncle Toms and etc. Get a little pat in the forehead. And then they say, you know what? No. We'll provide a little bit more money to some of these little black athletes, and we'll know overall, with few exceptions, they will do our bidding. They won't do anything for black American community. No, they won't build cities. No, they won't build infrastructures to help out many types of black Americans. They won't sit there and build buildings specifically for black male youth. See, other different cultures, they'll help out their own cultures, help out their own youth, and then demand and whine and stuff like that to political figures, and they got to get this law, get this political agenda, etc., and that's acceptable. But the minute black Americans start saying, hey, what about us and reparations, and what about the anti-American law and stuff like that? Well, I mean, we can't do that, but they ain't say anything about that to what we call supposedly wink Native Americans, because how many are what is called $2.50 or $5 Anglo Indians, right? And how many of them get reparations? But we're not going to sit there and quantify them and stuff like that, right? What about the anti-Asian hate crime law they got only a few years ago when they tried to portray as if black males were sitting there beating down Asians, which I don't like even utilizing the generic adjective saying Asian, because what does an Asian look like? Because Asia is a continent for dozens of countries. And what about the Afro-Asians? Right? You see how these games going. So the system, no, we don't have a problem with paying millions and millions and millions of dollars to these athletes, because they never will talk anything about black empowerment issues, about demanding legislatures have some kind of equalityness. No, they already know they're not going to do that. So what they got to do with this situation here? But Terence Crawford is no difference. He got his Negro Remindment. And the thing about it is, I want to do this as a timepiece purpose. It's not going to be a long show whatsoever, but I want to do it as a timepiece purpose to, again, showcase how this system is so brilliant. When they want to sit there and show different things, then they will. If they want to minimize different things, they will. The situation with the bad seed enforcement that did this in Nebraska toward Terence Crawford, It was despicable because he had just sit there and got basically another key to the city. They were sitting there celebrating him for winning against the Canelo Alvarez fight and everything like that, and all these different great things. And then he still gets stopped later on by some bad seeds showing him Remindment as if they didn't know him. But then that's not even just the only situation. But then I'm about to go ahead and get into the show. But at the same time, but then you have some people of color type of entities that was also utilizing him also. But then you start asking them, hey, what are you going to do to sit there and stand with Black Americans? Now, again, Black Americans don't need these entities, but how many entities sit there and utilize Black Americans for other people's benefit? But you say, hey, what are you going to do to stand with Black Americans and demand that they also get reparations and laws protecting them? This is what many of them do. You start asking these various types of people of color, under marginalized communities of color, BPOC, which stands for Black Indigenous People of Color. This is what those groups be doing. When you say, hey, what are you going to do for Black Americans? Exit station left. What are they going to do again? They say, hey, yeah, y'all keep utilizing Black Americans, and stuff like that. Just like little ponds and stuff like that for your own other types of benefits. But when it concerns, say, standing with Black Americans on Black American issues, what do they do? Exit station left. And when I'm sitting there observing this is what I'm doing. Right? So the thing about it is, let me go ahead and share my screen because I also have done a few different type of videos, right? As also some Black males, you don't say rich, but well-to-do, multi-millionaire type of Black males that also got their Remindment. Like this, for instance, right here. Let me sit there and show you something. Give me a second here. Right here. This was one of them. As you see right here. Oh, you can see this. Let me make sure my mute is off. Okay, good. So this is one of them. Black male. Let me back on my particular show. You see the Real CP show. This is basically Tyrell Davis, NFL superstar, basically. Hall of Famer, etc. Black male NFL Hall of Famer trip with his family, got arrested on an airplane. Got arrested on an airplane, right? On that. I don't want to go into all the detail, but he got his Remindment too on that. So that was one of them. All right. So let me stop that one. Hold on, give me a second. And so let me get back here. That was one of them. But at the same time, there's no such thing as racial racism still happening, right? Oh, man, this is ridiculous. Well, I tell you, the game these people play. So let me sit there and share my screen again. This is another show of a Remindment that, unfortunately, some of these well-to-do Black athletes that forget sometimes that, or many times that they're still looked at as Negroes just being utilized. All right, this is another one. Make sure you can see that. So this is another. Hold on. Give me a second here. My screen's acting kind of weird a little bit. Okay, there we go. So right here, Tyrell. Let me go back here. Okay, make sure. Okay, this other one, Tyreek Hill, the cheetah, because he was so fast, he got his Remindment, right? He was driving a nice, expensive car. Mate, that car cost more than both of their salaries combined for a whole year. And they surely didn't want to hear anything about that. or see anything about that. So they got him on some nonsensical situation. That was another remindment that happens, unfortunately. So I kind of wanted to set, give me a second here. Let me see something for a second before what I'm doing here. You know what? No, that's okay. So the thing about it is, let me exit that. So I kind of want to set that particular point because, again, they keep trying to tell many numbers of Black Americans that there's no such thing as racism going on. Well, at the same time, other people can talk about racism toward their people when they can get laws and policies and agendas and et cetera and all of those stuff, right? But they'll tell Black Americans, hey, no such thing as racism. I mean, the insultingness of that part, right? But let me go ahead and share my screen relating to this first particular video on this situation where, unfortunately, he got Terence Crawford got his type of remindment part of it. Give me a second. Oh, there was something else I want to show too. Oh, that's pretty good. I can show something too. Let me play this first. Give me a second here. Okay, here we go. Let me make sure that's right. Let me make sure my mute is off. Good. All right. So we get that out of the way. Okay.
Omaha police launched an internal affairs investigation after a traffic stop involving Omaha native Terence "Bud" Crawford. Thanks for joining us. I'm Julie Cornell. So it came after the city of Omaha celebrated his dominance in the ring and his birthday. KETV Newswatch 7's Pete Cudahy spoke with city leaders and members of Crawford's team who were in the car as everything went down. Pete, what do we know?
Julie, a video has been circulating on social media of an Omaha police officer pointing a gun at Terence Crawford. After speaking with both sides, we've been trying to figure out how everything escalated. Saturday at 1:30 in the morning, Terence Crawford was stopped by police on Cass Street. Crawford's head of security, Kasim Shabazz, was in the car.
Cop comes to my window, cop goes to Bud's window. I know the protocol.
An officer with the Omaha police tells KETV that while Crawford was reaching to grab his information, like license and registration, the cop spotted a gun by Crawford's feet.
He asked Mr. Crawford to exit the vehicle, and he did, and then Mr. Crawford was placed in handcuffs while they conducted their investigation.
The other 3 passengers in the car were also ordered to step outside at gunpoint and placed in handcuffs. Police say they found 2 guns in the car, but found that the people in the car were legally permitted to carry. But Shabazz says things went down differently, saying Crawford never reached for his license or registration.
He said, no, I don't have it on me. I left everything at home. He had already told them, so there was no reason for him to reach for nothing.
Shabazz says both he and Crawford had guns on them. He told the police he had a firearm, following Nebraska law. He says things escalated when Crawford announced he had a gun.
Bud said, I have a firearm, too. The cop on his side went ballistic.
See, how dare you got some Black American males? How dare them exercise their constitutionariness of their Second Amendment right to bear arms, as long as they are legally qualified to do that. How dare Black males do that? See, the last major time that they really did that, with the Black Americans exercised their Second Amendment right, constitutionary right, was around the 60s. And a piece of the 90s, and that was just for half a second, but the last major apex of Black men sitting there exercising their, again, Second Amendment right, just like numbers of males within the Panama-based culture have been doing for centuries, right? When they sit there and even train their little 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 10-year-old males, and sometimes the little female girls, they train them how to use firearms, right? But something about when Black Americans do it, well, that's a danger. God dang, right? That's a danger, I guess, on that situation.
Totally unhinged. He says, get your hands up, get out the car, don't reach. But there was never a physical gun in sight.
I couldn't let that go by that fast. There was no visible boom piece of equipment in sight that this bad seed enforcement personnel saw. So he just made that up. See how that goes? He just completely made that up. on that situation. How many black males have lost their lives behind something made up by some bad seed enforcement person, the one applies to? How many? But how many videos out there you hear certain males within the Panamese culture have a piece of juke knife in front of their hands coming toward numbers of enforcement people? They're not shot to unalivement. How many times are videos out there where you have certain type of people from Panamese culture and they have boom piece of equipment? I'm talking about collectively, not a few that got put down. No, we're talking about collectively, where they were like, hey, put the firearm down. Hey, we don't want to boom you. Put the firearm down. They talking to the person with humanity, right? I mean, I've lost count how many videos I saw on that. But something about when a black male exercises his Second Amendment constitutionary right, then he's a danger to communities. He's a danger to society, and he gets blasted down. How many times? Nobody else has ever been treated like this over such centuries. Nobody.
Everyone thought we were going to die, man.
Crawford was then charged with reckless driving, despite Shabazz saying police pulled them over for speeding.
Bud said, well, how do you know I was speeding if you don't have radar?
So it's like, which one is it? Was he speeding? Which one is it? Was he reckless driving? Which one it is? But he said it was speeding. And then when the bad seed enforcement personnel got called an outright lie, then as however numbers of them do, they get into some kind of a mode within their mentality, a fragmented mode, right? Oh, I got to figure out how to make something up. Okay. Oh, well, you was reckless driving. Wait, which one is it? You said that he was speeding first.
Okay. But I actually have the cop on camera saying I admit that I do not have radar.
A video that Shabazz has not shared with KETV. After hearing about the traffic stop, Mayor John Ewing Jr. got involved.
Myself, my chief of staff, Tom Warren, both reached out to Mr. Crawford, and he indicated that he would like us to do an investigation.
Mayor Ewing then contacted Police Chief Todd Schmaderer, who authorized an internal affairs investigation. Ewing hopes that by requesting body camera footage, there will be answers.
Our job is to not speculate. Our job is to get the facts out to the people of this community and then be transparent in every step of the process.
KETV asked Omaha Police to sit down for an interview, but they decided to stick to their written statement. The investigation remains ongoing.
But at the same time, they keep trying to tell Black Americans that there is no such thing as racial racism going on. Everything's great. Everything's great. Right? That's what they keep telling Black Americans, right? Right? As if something like this was a long time ago, right? Colored waiting room. That don't say certain Hispanicism, color waiting room. That don't say certain sections of Asianism waiting room. That doesn't say certain types of Native American waiting rooms. We're not going to play that. Where one time I saw them, we're not going to play that. There's nobody comes close to these type of Jim Crow type signs than Black Americans. So we're not going to play that tactic. Because the second person that comes close is certain ones within certain parts of Native Americanism. But we're not going to play that because how many would we call Native Americans, right? Which is Black natives. But again, you got some people that's very naive, act like there's no such thing. But that's on those personnel to be that naive on that. You know, you got Black Native tribes telling you we are Black Native tribes. What are you talking about? We were basically remixed in early 1900s by racial racism, segregationist hatred, anti-American Black hatred person and personnel, and they rebranded us into some generic alley of Black banner on that. But again, that's a whole different story in itself. But regardless, what we call Native Americans got reparations, right? They got their own sovereignty. What's the situation why Black Americans can't get no reparations? Why Black Americans can't have their own type of sovereignty? Interested on that. See, that's the game plan. that unfortunately there are certain means within American Blackism, with very few exceptions, that still don't know that game. So I just kind of wanted to start that particular part up for a second, because here's the thing about it. Like I showed earlier in the other two remindments, that unfortunately some of these Black athletes, sometimes they kind of forget and think that things have changed, and they think they're quite different. The one this applies to. This was another particular, podcast I did not a long time ago on my particular channel. You see the Real CP Show talks about how this phantom Black man, because he was a phantom Black man, according to this particular Caucasian officer who was booming at. So this particular Caucasian bad seat officer, he was booming at this phantom Black man that never existed. What other males in society? What do you mean by that? Well, let me see if I can go right here. Give me a second here. Right. As you see, get the right. Make sure my mute is off. Former deputy accused of faking a booming. You see what this says? A former deputy, this is Oklahoma, one of those places in Oklahoma, was accused of faking a chase. That he was doing a car chase out there, Black male. He was radioed in, talking about there was a shooting about this Black male, and the Black male was, having a long gun or whatever sticking outside of the vehicle, and this particular not this particular, it wasn't this particular person, but the point I'm making, hold on a second here. So it was this particular person in this particular police car. So they outright dislodged and hit. They called back to whatever the base and said to the police base part of it, and said there was a Black male that did this and did that, and he was shooting back at the officer. And they found out that it never happened. No other culture male has experienced this. Yes, phantom Black man, a Caucasian officer shoots at that never existed. What other males in America? Nobody comes close to that. Nobody. But at the same time, they keep trying to tell again American Black folks that everything is great. Everything is fine now. While at the same time, no reparations and hatred still continuously going on. So let me sit there and share my screen again and play. It's a quick about 20, 30 seconds of the other one. Give me a second here. Gunpoint. All right, make sure you can see that. I'm trying to turn this off. I'm gonna talk about mute. Make sure my mute is right. All right.
Stepping out. Seatbelt. Step out. I'm opening the door. I'm opening the door.
Right here on my right. I'm keeping my fucking hands up.
I'm not reaching for no gun, bro.
What? You what?
Fucking hands up.
I'm not reaching for no gun, bro.
Wait.
I'm opening the door. I'm opening the door.
Right here on my right. I'm keeping my fucking hands up.
I'm not reaching for no gun, bro.
So the bad seat was like, oh wait, done this, and you're Terrence was saying, wait a minute, what are you talking about, man? I'm not reaching for no boom piece of equipment. What are you talking about? Now, all this money that Terence Crawford is making got basically a key to the city, basically a second time around, I think it was, regardless, was sitting there having a celebration for him after his victory over Canelo, the Alvarez guy, which is a whole different topic, because you best believe, unfortunately, I know unfortunately some people keep thinking that there's no bad. I'm sorry, there are some people who think that there's no. So because Canelo is a white Americano. I'm gonna get to something in a second, a little bit. So he's a white Americano, and again, I'm not talking about some of the good Mexican brothers and sisters. We're not talking about that. But we're not going to play this little silly tactic and act as if you don't have numbers of white Mexicanos, the ones it applies to, who think they are basically European. We're not going to play that tactic. We're not going to play a tactic as if in the telenovelas in Mexico that they're sitting there showing Afro-Mexicans right, in reality. Should we say with the nice type of haciendas in the land, right? And they have some kind of white Mexicanos or Papa-look Mexicanos working on their hacienda. Nope, we're not going to pretend. We're not going to pretend that on the weather stations, various parts of Mexico, that they sit there and have Afro-Mexicans sitting there talking about the news or the weather. Excuse me. We're not going to pretend that. We're not going to pretend that all these gigantic amount of shows on the various types of Mexican TV that they're sitting there showing Afro-Mexicans left and right in a productive way. We're not going to pretend that they're doing it because they're not. So we're not going to pretend that situation. So Alvarez, Mexicano, oh, you best believe when he got beat, there was quite a number of wannabe, should we say, white Mexicanos that wish they were Anglo, that they were saying all kind of N words at that TV when they sit there and saw Terence Crawford win. Excuse me. Oh, some of them was pissed, right? Again, but I know some people don't talk about that situation on that. But let's continue.
Step out. Can I move my phone?
Yeah, that's crazy.
He was like, it's not, he was like, it's not even that deep, right? It's like, what are you talking? I mean, and they knew who he was, the Bassies, they knew who Canelo, they knew who Terence Crawford was, because of all the different people that came to sit there and see Terence Crawford, because again, however the personnel there were giving him to basically the keys to the city, symbolically, and stuff like celebrating his win. And, because this guy's a world champion boxer. World champion. He is extremely good at what he does. Multi-level champion in different weight classes. Oh, he's no joke, right? But at the same time, like anything else, if the system can utilize Black America in some kind of way, they will do it. Just like the second part of this topic I'm talking about is they also utilize, like they did Terence Crawford, numbers of people that have those generic should we say people of color entities that utilize Black Americans like that, the ones it applies to. And it's no different here. But let me sit there and show you something that many people still have not remember. Either they did not see it, or it's been a little bit of time, they kind of forgot about it. This is why it's good to do remindment. This is when, oh, you know what? Give me a second. Yeah, hold on. This is when, not too long ago, when right here. Yeah. Some people know who this is, and some people who do not know who this is. This is Ron Garcia, a very vitriol, anti-Black American, white Mexicano, right? Very hateful one. This is a show I did not too long ago. Wait, when was this? I'm sure I did this. About a year ago. Today is, the show is starting November the 10th. Today, November 10th, 2025. Today is November 11th, 2025. So about a year ago when I did this particular podcast, if a Black boxer spewed racial racism like Ron Garcia and others did, there'd have been all kind of hell to pay, right? On this situation. What do you mean by that? I'm not going to play the whole thing because, again, that's on some of my videos on the Real CP show under, I think, the live tab too on that. But give me a second here. Yeah, where'd it go? Let me see. I'm just going to show this a little bit here, right here. I love the N words. See Ryan Garcia. You see that, right? But remember, Black folks use N-words. Most Black folks don't use the N-words, by the way. It is a destructionary word. It is a trash can word. It is a nonsensical word.
Nigga, you supposed to hit your chest and throw up the peace sign. That means you want to.
I said niggas
Mm. Things, you know, because not all hospitals.
That mean you know, I said niggas are worried about niggas in the ER word, but niggas are saying niggas to the ER.
Mm.
No, you didn't hear that.
You see this right here? This is Ron Garcia. So first he's saying the N-word. Now he's disrespecting a black man who was unalive on national TV by bad season enforcement personnel, include some people of color, by the way, non-blacks. What did it say? Ron Garcia. George Floyd is a bitch. You see right here. It gets no clearer than this, but some people, unfortunately, just their mind short circuits on this kind of stuff. It's hard for them to believe. And unfortunately, there are means within American Blackism that have been used by so many people playing people of color games. What means American Blacks playing communities of color, playing marginalized communities, underutilized communities, playing BIPOC, Black Indigenous People of Color games. And it's only a few percentage exceptions within American Blacks who know these games. See, this right here is an insult on this situation. Let me sit there and show you just a little bit more on that. This is Ron Garcia's little piece of crap father on this situation. Let's see what Ron Garcia's father was saying about. Anyway, I'm just gonna play this.
Seems that he's having a difficult time with everything. But he can't.
Oh, here we go. Right here. Using one of the most destruction word ever, and you don't know why you're using it. Okay, I understand. No, I don't, because that's just silly. Come on, Ron Garcia was using the N-word on that one. So again, the proverbial black folks jump off the bridge. You're gonna right.
Nappy head, I sound like some racist shit. Hey, that's what he's looking like. I'm really got looking like. I'm sorry. He got a nappy head.
Ron, piece of donkey shit, Garcia's father, with that old anti-hatredness that spewed out of his mouth, or should I say, the hatredness that spewed out of his mouth. Now he wouldn't fix his mouth to say, "Oh, those Jewish people, they are this." He wants to say, "Oh, those particular Asian people, they are this." Nope, he knows his place because he wants to be Angloized so bad.
African Americans, we have more coarse hair than you Latinos, but that don't make our hair nappy. But that does not make our hair nappy. Don't get it confused. I don't care about all facts or whatever you got to say. At the end of the day, we're African Americans and we have.
Well, that African American stuff, I guess on that, because it should be more toward Black Americans on that, not African American, because again, somebody can come from India, come over because they're infiltrating more parts of Africa, by the way. It's like various types of Chinese and Syrians and Lebanese and etc. They are infiltrating more and more parts of Africa. But you got various parts of Africans, the ones it applies to, the one that fled to America, have the nerve to talk down about Black Americans, but they can't fix their own countries in various parts of Africa. Now, I'm not talking about some of the good brothers and sisters in Africa. I'm not talking about them. Those are very small amount that are allowed to come to America, right? The rest of them, they're allowed to flee to America. Those are the ones that have a extremely vile hatred of Black Americans, and they are jealous because they can't fix corruption and brutality going in their own countries, and major tribalism going in their countries. So they cannot, they do not like that on that situation. And so the thing about it is, so many people feel that they can insult Black Americans on that situation. And it's an embarrassing situation. And as I said, that just showed you a second ago with Ron Garcia using the N-word, another boxer that was using the N-word and stuff like toward this other particular personnel. And then I show what his racial racist, a donkey shit father was sitting there talking about, calling that I think the other boxing guy calling him a nappy head. I'm telling that the stuff is ridiculous. But let me go ahead. Hold on. Somebody want to give me a second. What is somebody want to show? Oh, yes. Okay. So the thing about it is, the last part I want to show was about the black and brown. I'm sorry, not black and brown. When Terence Crawford was also honored by this Harvard entity, should we say, and playing black, brown, red, tan games with Terence Crawford. So again, but when it's relating to this, they get quiet. They don't talk about stuff like this that's happened less than 100 years ago, right? They don't talk about this. But when it's something dealing with Black Americans they can use, they will do that. And they understand that unfortunately means within American Blackism, no, they are the most openest people ever in America. And so many people have utilized Black Americans left and right. So many, with very few exceptions within American Blackism that know the game. So let me go ahead and share my screen, on that part. On this, there's another video I want to show about this other particular boxer that the system got him to in a different kind of way. World-class boxer too. This person know what I'm talking about when I show this, but they got him in a way of saying, we got this well-to-do off Negro talking about this other particular major group and stuff like that, helping them out with their issues, and it's an embarrassment on this. But let me sit there and show you this relating to Terence Crawford basically being utilized under this particular group or entity on this situation.
Well, more than 3 weeks following Bud Crawford's unsettling traffic stop in Omaha, and the boxing champ is back in his hometown tonight. Crawford declined to talk about that incident, which led to press conferences with the police chief and mayor, and even a change to how officers conduct traffic stops. Tonight, Bud wanted to shift the focus back to the community, and the organization honoring him was eager to do the same. First Alert 6's Andrew Pfeiffer has the story.
He really has brought is a light that has shined for all of us.
This is the highest honor.
3 weeks after the city threw him a celebratory parade for capturing 3 unified division boxing titles, Bud Crawford is back in Omaha. Tonight, he was bestowed one of the highest honors from the Omaha tribe.
I'm feeling great, for an Indian reservation to look at me and honor me with, the things that they feel have never been given to somebody else outside of, their reservation.
See, and unfortunately, in Terence Crawford, he doesn't come across that he is a person that thinks he's above a lot of people. He doesn't come across like that. But unfortunately, he also has a type of naiveness to him too. On that, it's an innocent naiveness, but it's still a type of naivete on that. Because just like, unfortunately, certain ones within American Blacks, millions, with very few exceptions, that know the game, that knows the power of history, that say, wait a minute now, the Trail of Tears, that was about 200 years ago. So please go ahead and show one alive, full-blooded Native American. You know how rare that would be now? But at the same time, how many of what we call wink wink Native tribes that have branched out? I don't want to go on all that. This is not the top of the show for that. But how many of them getting reparations? And then you sit there and look at a lot of these Native American organizations and entities, and you look at them, you see some of the head people and some other people that's in charge in certain positions, and you like, that does not look like what we call a stereotypical Native American. They look more Anglo, right? And how many of them come from the $5 Indian situation people? $5 Indians. So we can't assume that many people already know about that. Many people don't know. Sometimes we forgot within American Black. Sometimes the ones that do know, that not everybody knows what the $5 Indian is. Because the $5 Indian were people that were Anglos, basically, and they saw opportunity. And they talked to some other Anglos that were running things in certain Native American situations and said, hey, buddy, hey, I'll give you $5, maybe $2.50 sometime, $2, wherever it is, but $5 was the in generalness. And you put my name on that Native American roll. And that's where they come with the $5 Indians. And that's the way you get a lot of times various types of Native Americans look like they Anglos. See how the game goes on this situation. But if you say anything about Black natives, oh my goodness, those are the pretendians. But it's funny, same type of people don't say nothing about the Anglo-Indian version. They don't say anything about the ones say, wait a minute, man, where's the quantification at? What about the ones that get all these reparations? You say, wait a minute now, what does Trail of Tears have nothing to do with them on that? That's 200 years ago. So the same type of people, they be like, Black native, there's no such thing. Right? And you like, there are Black natives saying, what are you talking about, man? We are Black natives too. Just like numbers can say Black Americans, right? See, but you got people that try to put Black Americans in one only box. See how that goes, right? It's a disgusting tactic. But he doesn't realize that there are Black natives as well. And the thing about it is how many other what we call the Native Americans are, numbers of them are Anglos.
It's definitely an honor.
We just wanted to give him this honor. Bud has always been great with the youth, and having the youth come down from the reservation, this is like a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
The Black, Brown, and Red Coalition honored Bud.
Youth, and having the youth come down from the reservation. This.
So unfortunately, they don't have a problem with picking a little black-skinned one, a Black American or whatever this one particular personnel is. They have a problem with this. He's a co-founder of however, whatever it is, the blackness and brownness residents. Well, but you don't say, wait a minute now, what about the reparations for Black Americans? Nope. You see how this disgusting tactic goes.
This is like a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
The Black, Brown, and Red Coalition honored Bud with a hand-stitched quilt from the Omaha tribe. Members of the Black, Latino, and Native community all took part in the ceremony.
He has a lot of love from the Native American community.
What does that mean? There are Black natives. And of course, you got these little sinister type people. They got these little games, but they ain't gonna talk about, well, we know there's quite a number of Anglo-Indians. So those are the real pretendians, the Anglo-Indians. Let's say this again. The true pretendians are the Anglo-Indian versions, right? They don't talk about that particular part. They don't talk about all these reparations that we call Native Americans are getting left and right for something that has nothing to do with 9,000% of the population. Current time has nothing to do. But the same type people within various parts of Panamanian culture and some of these little other backgrounds and cultures, ethnicities, and etc., the ones that are paying, shall we say, taxes and stuff like that, they're not sitting there saying we had nothing to do with the Trail of Tears. It's funny how many don't even know about the Trail of Tears. But just say how many of the Anglos know about Trail of Tears. They're not sitting there saying we had nothing to do with the Trail of Tears. We don't want our taxpayers' money going to reparations for what we call Native Americans because they are scary. Say as long as some dealing with Black Americans, right? And Black Americans say, wait a minute, now don't put us in the box. No. We also have what we call Black nativeness as well. Yes, numbers of Black Americans have the African ancestry in that, ones who wants to sit there and relay that over and have some type of ancestry ties to genetically, not just making up something generically saying African, right? Which is a whole different problem in itself. Because you got numbers of people from Africa trying to get away from Africa. Every day trying to escape, going to Europe, trying to flee, trying to get to America. Sitting there complaining about corrupted presidents, corruption, political personnel, etc. But the ones that are able to flee from Africa and come to America, doing supplies, you got the nerve talking about Black Americans. The freaking nerve. But that's some jealousy, basically, type people. They just have black skin and cosplaying.
Although there's not too many natives in the city, but there's some on the reservation. Well, most on the reservation. They love him. They really support him and love him a lot.
Crawford received gifts and took photos with kids who drove hours from their reservations to meet the champ.
You know, for these kids that's coming from these reservations and to be able to look up to somebody that's so close to them is very important.
Even though Bud is a world, renowned champion, he's our local hero, and he's no stranger to us.
It feels great, because I give a lot of people in Nebraska hope that, anything is possible.
Reporting.
And what about the hope to give to the Black Americans in Omaha, Nebraska, Nebraska in general? What about the hope for those Black American males, youth, should we say? What about them? Quietness, right? Quietness has he built specifically buildings or things in certain neighborhoods within Omaha that has a few Black Americans, which is going to be a small number, by the way. Has he been building things within there? Just saying on that. Or has the structure of the system said, no, we can't let you do that, but we will allow you to sit there and do some other different things in general, right? Because this is what they do to quite a number of Black athletes, the ones supplies to, with very few exceptions. As long as you do not do anything specifically in the Black American community, then that's fine. But if you start talking about people of color, communities of color, underutilized communities, certain type of Jawishism, people, you get the point. I'm gonna show you in a little bit. Then that's acceptable. The list goes on, right? Then that's acceptable. But don't ever, are you doing stuff in various parts of Africa? Because there's no such thing as Pan-Africanism. That's pretending, by the way, right? Because you got people that try to play both sides. Pan-Africanism is like a dinosaur. Actually, you have a better chance to sit there and see a reproductionness of genetically made dinosaur before you truly have any kind of Pan-Africanism. That stuff is long gone. Again, you got numbers of Africans in various parts of Africa don't even want to be Africans. And I'm not talking about some of the good brothers and sisters on the African continent, but it's an insult to various parts of good brothers and sisters in Africa to try to put them in a certain box, right? Because who controls the Egyptian pyramids? Non-Black Africans. Those are the Arab versions, the nomadic late-comer Arabs that control the Egyptian pyramids. Quietness. Who do you think is in Tunisia, Algeria, right? Morocco, huh? Those are not regular Africans. Those are not Black Africans. You see how this game goes, right? In South Africa, right? That's a slight bit of melting pot, but overall, they're going to be Black South Africans, but how many of them have a colored, which is not actually Black African, right, mixed in? What about the Boers or the Afrikaners, right? Or they speak Afrikaan type language from the Dutch that ran themselves from Europe and stuff like that, trying to get away from certain things that you better not call them Africans. But you got numbers of personnel from certain parts of Africa, the one is fled to have the nerve to try to tell Black Americans just call yourself African. You don't get out of here with that damn game. On that, Black Americans are their own unique culture. See, there's hundreds of tribes in Africa, several hundred languages in Africa. You ain't gonna box them in, and they won't call themselves Africans like that. That's a recent word in the history of time. So you will call the Maasai people Africans ahead of time. You will call the Himba people, Himba, whatever the people are with the kind of a redness they use to claim stuff like that. And I mean, the list goes on. They be like, we're not Africans first. We're on tribe first. How dare you call us Africans first? No, we are tribes first. But people love trying to play the little, hey, Black Americans, call yourself Africans first. Get the out of here. Right? See how that game goes.
In Omaha.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, and by the way, like in Omaha, Black Americans don't make up a gigantic amount of the population. Overall, this is going to be what? Anglos. And either the numbers right about the same as what Black Americans or more Hispanics in Omaha, in Nebraska in general, right? Which is a whole different game on that situation.
I'm Andrew Pfeiffer.
For your event, Build Cross Coalition. Oh, you know.
I'm Andrew Pfeiffer, First Alert 6.
Oh, you know exactly where I'm going with this. This event was organized by a group calling itself the Black, Brown, and Red Coalition. That's already scary. They say the purpose of these events that they like to hold is to build cross-cultural dialogue between Black, Brown, and Red communities. Yeah, because apparently the only way you can build any sort of cross-cultural dialogue is by inviting high-profile Black people to show up for your event and bring lots of white media news cameras to cover it. And by the way, this same organization, back in June of this year, they were honoring John Ewing, the first Black mayor of Omaha. And then a few months later, they were posting about how the Omaha police, without mentioning that these were white cops, by the way, were holding Terence Crawford at gunpoint. But it is interesting to see that the Brown and Red Coalition decided that they wanted to include Black people, and apparently this is the only way that they could get some actual attention for themselves. And we all know why. Look, there's simply no substitute for the
Wait. Uh-oh, sorry. Wait, whoa. I'm sorry about that. Ah, dang. I did not. Give me a second here. Whoa, I thought I was playing. It was not playing. Sorry about that. Let me go back again. God dang it. It's okay. I don't know what was going on with that. Sorry about that. I know something was going on. Yeah, let me go back.
white cops, by the way.
Right here.
X. Organized by a this. X. Oh, you know exactly where I'm going with this. This event was organized by a group calling itself the Black, Brown, and Red Coalition. That's already scary. They say the purpose of these events that they like to hold is to build cross-cultural dialogue between Black, Brown, and Red communities. Yeah, because apparently the only way you can build any sort of cross-cultural dialogue is by inviting high-profile Black people to show up for your event and bring lots of white media news cameras to cover it. And by the way, this same organization, back in June of this year, they were honoring John Ewing, the first Black mayor of Omaha. And then a few months later, they were posting about how the Omaha police, without mentioning that these were white cops, by the way, were holding Terence Crawford at gunpoint. But it is interesting to see that the Brown and Red Coalition decided that they wanted to include Black people, and apparently this is the only way that they could get some actual attention for themselves. And we all know why. Look, there's simply no substitute for the moral, cultural, and historical legitimacy that the foundational Black community stands for and has always represented. The tide of history that we embody, that's not a brag, it's a fact. Now, a lot of people don't like it because of the fact that they love to refer to our history. They always refer to our struggle. They refer to us as being a rhetorical or cultural touchstone for anything they want to say about themselves, even their own aspirations. And yet when you say, hey, don't you think this group that you keep pointing to all the time and you keep referencing their history when talking about yourself, you keep talking about their figures when trying to refer to yourself, don't you think that that group, at the very least, deserves some sort of recognition for how unique they've been? Oh, hell no. It's no different than anybody else. And as far as I'm concerned, this little event is no different, no better. I'm not going to knock Terence Crawford for showing up for this event because that would be uncalled for. If there's some group that says that they want to honor him, quote unquote, and especially if white media cameras are going to be there, well, he is a Black celebrity, and that being the case, since he's the biggest thing in boxing, it would be unnatural if he didn't show up, especially if it's in his hometown. But what I want to say is we need to be careful about validating any of that Black-Brown, or in this case, Black-Brown-Red alliance stuff. Or should I say coalition. Everyone else benefits from these so-called alliances and coalitions except for us. We keep lending our voices and our numbers and our historical and cultural legitimacy to everyone else's causes, but they never lend theirs to ours. We don't need another kumbaya moment. What we need are tangible policies specifically for us to address the specific problems that we face. That's what should have been brought into consideration during this event, but wasn't. This Black, Brown, and Red coalition mentioned that Terence Crawford had been accosted and threatened by the Omaha police, but acknowledging it was as far as they went. What's really called for, what's actually necessary, is an anti-black hate crime law. That's what they should have been advocating for. A law that recognizes the obvious open anti-black racism applied against black Americans like Terence Crawford.
Exactly. But at the same time, they want black Americans to pretend that racial racism is still not going on, right? And very small percentage within American blackism know the game. So Terence Crawford would sit there and got a remindment by the bad seats within Omaha. And the thing about it is, unfortunately, that he did not recognize what was really going on. And so the thing about it as well is that he doesn't come across, Terence Crawford doesn't come across as someone who, again, doesn't come across as someone he thinks he's better. No, he just comes across someone, hey, he's just a great boxer, and that's what he likes to focus on. Unfortunately, there are the other people saying, we like Negroes like that. We like Negroes that sit there and say, yeah. They're just focusing on that part. But at the same time, when it concerns like I just showed you a second ago, hey, but we need for you to talk about black and brown or black and yellow, black and tan, communities of color, underutilized communities, et cetera, right? Oh, see, they love playing games like that to certain type of people within certain parts of American blackism, with very few exceptions, right? So they'll sit there and tell them, hey, no, don't worry about stuff like this, because many of them have no clue about real black American history, which is part of America's history before many cultures and backgrounds even existed in America. This is why that little silliness talking about the woke culture. And the only thing that means is that Negroes be quiet. That's the only thing it means. Who is they talking about? They ain't talking about certain type of Hispanicism. In the 1600s, there was no such thing as Hispanism like that in America. What are you talking about? Hispanism only means speaking in Spanishness. And even that, they're not talking about Afro-Hispanic people, because before Hernan Cortez did his conquering in Mexico in 1519, people weren't talking about Mexico like that. And that wasn't even talked about like that in the first place. Because Mexico didn't get their independence from Spain until 1821 or something like that. And even then, it wasn't called Mexico like that. That's a modern-based word, by the way, right? Because the last great civilization, what they would call Mexico, was the Aztecs. And the Aztecs certainly wasn't talking about Mexicans like that. They would laugh. You sit there and call Aztecs Mexicans. They would truly laugh at people like that. But again, those are different games in themselves, just like the word Asian. What is that supposed to mean? Asia is a very broad geopolitical terminology tactic, right? On that, because Asia is a continent with dozens of countries and how many uncalculable number of really islands. And they certainly ain't talking about Afro-Asians. So you see how this game goes. But unfortunately, that this system is brilliant, and they make sure to keep as many Black Americans naive to not talk about Black Americans' issues like other people talking about their issues, just like you see on this screen on that, right? Just like this situation. Let me sit there and show you something. I'm about to close down the show. It's like this situation right here. Give me a second. Oh wait. Where did it go? Where did it go? Did I sit that? I may have closed that down. No, I didn't. Here we go. See, again, they love Black Americans, especially Black American athletes that make that kind of money, to just be quiet, Negroes. Don't talk about anything dealing with Black American issues. But, long as you sit there and talk about other people's issues, that's fine. This is another one. As I showed earlier in the show, a couple of different podcasts I did. But unfortunately, some Black athletes got the remindment card on situations. Now, Floyd Mayweather, some people know that. He was good what he was doing too, right? Undefeated, etc. Some people talking about, he was just fighting these trash can type fighters, as if all of was trash can fight. I don't think so. He fought some top contenders, and regardless, he still getting hit, right? And that still does damage. But regardless, they was calling him, you spent all that money and that Negro can't even read. And they was calling calling Mayweather all kind of names left and right. all kind of names. But look what happened now. Floyd Money Mayweather has sold his soul, unfortunately, on that part. And again, as long as he didn't talk about Black American issues, then that's fine. But he has now the nerve to say he's about Israel. He's getting laughed at deep down by other people.
I really don't know what to say. First, I just really want to say thank you for the award. When I stood behind Israel, I wasn't looking for an award. I felt I did what was right. And if that's, when you choose your side, you stay on that side. And this is the side that I chose. I take my hat off to the soldiers, those warriors in Israel. I'm behind you guys once again, 100%. Since the war has started, if I'm not mistaken, I've been to Israel 4 or 5 times, and I will be back. And you know, I was looking at the video and I seen, you know, my best friend, Jonah. I seen him on the screen and he said, and they had wrote a script out for me to, you know, for me to get up here and speak. But when I get up here and speak, I want to speak from the heart. Because when you
And you see what they said. They gave him a script. Don't get it confused. He's saying he speaks from the heart, but you look at his eyes. His eyes are looking at some kind of teleprompter or something. Nothing wrong with that to a certain point, right? Because certain things need to be talked about. But he knows exactly who's controlling him now. This is embarrassing because it's like it's an embarrassing because it's told that, well, you can't say certain things about Jawishism, or you're called what? Anti-Semitic? And ain't no specialists, not enough know Black Americans that know history. They say, what are you talking about with that foolish terminology? What does Semitic mean? Semitic means languages. Semitic does not mean a particular people. And there's also Afro-Asiatic people on that. So Semitic is also talking about, again, languages in Afro-Asiatic languages. But when you sit there and say, oh, the Jawishism or Israel, you're anti-Semitic, I'm like, people still allowing that little tactic to be ran, right? And what about the various sections of Africa that can say, wait a minute now, we can say that we actually have what you supposedly call Jawish tenants, that we also some of the true tenants of type personnel that can call ourselves Jawish type people. Nope, can't do that, right? And what about some of the African type personnel, should we say, in various parts of Israel? How are they getting treated? Oh, see, they don't want to talk about that part. And what about, you say, wait a minute now for a second. What about America? Where's all this Black and Jawishism coalition at, right? Because you say, well, all that power is supposed to come from Jawishism. Where's all these at to say, wait a minute now, we demand these political personnel get this anti-American Black hate crime law passed too? You think that couldn't come through if however sectionality of true Jewish, well, no, that's not true Jewishness. If however personnel that, I'm not talking about some of the good personnel that practice the Judaism faith, which is crazy because there are some Black people that also practice Judaism faith. There are Chinese people that practice that faith. There are certain Hispanic people that practice Judaism faith. But this system is saying, you know what? We want this section of people, and we want to have this outdated, archaic type of terminology say, hey, you know what? these are the people that can say that they are God's chosen people. Huh? Okay. I'm not going to all that. I'm just saying, unfortunately, that the system knows it's not enough Black Americans that truly know history, with very small exceptions. And unfortunately, they got Money Mayweather right here talking about he is for pro-Israel. But you say, what about you doing for Black Americans on that? Right? Specifically, continuously, not here and there. No. Continuously. Nope.
Speak from the heart is genuine. There's so many familiar faces in this crowd today. So many lovely people. Everyone in the crowd looked so lovely, so beautiful. And it's all about peace. I'm all about peace. I'm all about love. I'm all about happiness. And I truly want the soldiers to continue to hold your heads up high, continue to smile, continue to love one another, because life is short. And all we have is our loved ones. And that's why love and your family is priceless. And Jonah, I love you, you're family, I appreciate you. And let's continue to fight and stand behind one another. I had a chance to meet another great individual when I was over in Israel. The last time, I think it was October 7th. I don't know the exact date because I travel so much, but the Prime Minister of Israel, he's an unbelievable gentleman. And I have to say to a lot of my business partners out there in this crowd, thank you. You guys are truly, truly unbelievable.
Some of his business partners in the crowd where he talking about this crowd roars at Floyd Mayweather saying promising message to Jewishness. And like one of the great Black Americans, super scholar, layman's terms, the way he was speaking, Dr. John Henry Clark, he has a great video called Who Exactly is a Jewish People? Who exactly is a Jewish people? For people who might not know who Dr. John Henry Clark is, and there are some people who do know, but there are some people who don't know about that video. Some people do, some people don't. But the thing I'm making about to close down the show is that it's a sad thing that Mayweather has been bought. All that money he's supposed to have made, and he's a control pawn, unfortunately. Now you say what he should be doing a gigantic amount for especially Black American youth on that. But nope. He knows his place, and unfortunately, like Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford, again, he reminds me of a good-hearted person, I guess to a point, but I'm just saying, but he understands that he is not going to be called upon to talk about scholarly conversations, good political in-depth conversations, Black American historical issues and things like that. He knows that, right? So at the same time, he said, hey, I'm just a good boxer. He's a great boxer, but at the same time, he's also being used by however powers, unfortunately, on that situation. So the thing about it is, in closing this show, you got quite a number of Black athletes, very prominent athletes who know who they are, who've been bought out and sold their souls. And they spend their money building up, helping out other communities. They're going to various parts of Africa, and we say how they're going to help out various parts of Africa. And you're like, what about Pan-Africanism at? Black Americans had their own problems going on in America. What about helping out specifically Black Americans? Nope. What? Just look at this right here. This is not changing the hatred toward Black Americans. Just like this right here. I'm gonna show you something for a second. Yeah, I'm trying to hurry up so I can finish the show today on this one. Where am I strong? Give me 1 second here. This wasn't a long time ago either. Give me a second here.
Who walked out of the Democratic convention formed their own party.
The Southern revolt against President Truman reaches its climax at Birmingham under the states' rights banner.
The so-called Dixiecrats nominated the South Carolina Governor Strom Thurmond as their presidential candidate.
There's not enough troops in the army to force the Southern people to break down segregation and admit the Negro race in the army.
Their presidential candidate.
There's not enough troops in the army to force the Southern people to break down segregation and admit the Negro race into our theaters, into our swimming pools, into our homes, and into our churches.
Delegates who walked out of the Democratic convention formed their own party.
The Southern revolt against President Truman reaches its climax at Birmingham under the states' rights banner.
The so-called Dixiecrats nominated the South Carolina Governor Strom Thurmond as their presidential candidate.
There's not enough troops in the army to force the Southern people to break down segregation and admit the Negro race into our theaters, into our swimming pools, into our homes, and into our churches.
But at the same time, as on this particular topic, that Terence Crawford got his remindment, but he also was utilized under the people of color entities by sitting there and people that are utilizing Terence Crawford for non-Black American beneficiality. And it's nothing wrong with him getting some recognition and things like that. Hope he gets more recognition, Terence Crawford. But the problem is that when they are not doing a lot of stuff specifically for Black Americans, especially Black American youth. Yes, there are some Black Americans that you just can't save. Just the mentality's gone. The system has messed up quite a number of American Blacks because so much Black pain. And small percentage exceptions. But the problem is that when none of these Black American athletes that are being used to help other cultures and backgrounds out first. That's a major problem that is still not talked about enough. And people like Terence Crawford, extremely world-class boxer, multi levels, just multi-talented in that. You like Money Mayweather. Some people don't like him, but he's very talented. I mean, he's like undefeated, basically undefeated. Even though some people question what kind of opponents he was having, but he has some great opponents as well. But what I showed you the video earlier, where he's basically talking about he is for Israel. You see how this goes. But you start talking about what is he going to do for building up Black American areas, certain places. He can do that, all that kind of money. Multi-millions. You can do some stuff in certain types of Black American areas. Or get with some other Black Americans and start building certain things, especially trying to get things done for the Black American youth. No, most Black athletes don't want to do that. And about closing up, look what's going on in the professional, should we say, a football organization, a certain type of professional basketball organization. The majority of what those athletes are what? Majority Black Americans. But at the same time, you look at that professional football, particular league, that specifically talking professional basketball league, you say, wait a minute now. Out of 30-some teams, you say, what? One organizations have maybe one owner, which that's questionable. So you got a professional football leagueness, a professional basketball leagueness, where basically 9,000% within the ownership demographics are non-blacks. But at the same time, the majority of the players who are making all that money for Harvard, the organizations, are primarily Black Americans. Something is very wrong with that picture. This is why, unfortunately, I have to say, because there's so much internalness of messed upness that this system has messed up millions of other American Blacks, especially in going to modern day, with very few exceptions, that the American Blacks own collectively only have half a generation to one generation left before the overall complete destruction of the American Black culture overall. Because there is no way that another culture, cultures and backgrounds, the alternative lifestyle category, et cetera, ethnic backgrounds, et cetera, would have survived centuries of like Black Americans and still not have a law specifically or protection for specifically that particular entity. There's no way that they wouldn't be getting reparations if they had centuries of comparable to Black pain, which no other cultures and backgrounds that have no comparison in America like that. Well, what we call Native Americans, I tell people, go with that tactic. Many of them get reparations, and how many of them are Anglos? And you best believe, regardless, various parts of athletes from those various cultures and backgrounds or alternative lifestyle categories, etc. I'm going to give an example. They still would do things for their own people first or their own agenda first. They have put this system has told Black Americans, the well-off to do and quite a number of well-to-do Black athletes, Black American athletes, no, you put Black Americans later on in your agendas. And this is why they have a problem with sitting there paying numbers of Black American athletes pretty good money overall, because they know it don't matter. That money's going to go right back to us in the first place in some kind of way. I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP Show.